Well, tonight after the sun goes down, members of the Jewish community around the world will gather around the table for the traditional Seder. Seder is actually a word that means order, and it tells the story of the Jews' exodus from Egypt, and it starts with their enslavement by the ancient pharaohs. Dini Sharfstein from the Chabad in St. John's County is here this morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, the foods are actually a symbolism of the entire story and the exodus from Egypt, and we're going to make what they call charoset in a second, but I want to start over here with this book. It is called the Passover Haggadah, and it basically sets the order for the Seder. Tell me about the Haggadah.
So the Haggadah has the whole story in it. We read it throughout the Seder. The Seder is a 15-step family tradition and ritual-packed feast where we do all these different interesting things to engage the children and the next generation. We want to get them to ask questions. So the Haggadah, we read through the Haggadah as we do all these interesting steps that the Seder plate guides us.
And also this here is the matzah. It is basically an unleavened bread. And when the Jews were traveling through the desert to win their freedom, they didn't have the time for the dough to rise. So that's what this symbolizes.
Yes, so this is the unleavened bread that they ate as they left Egypt. And so it's actually a very important part of Passover. It's one of the main things we do tonight and the second night of Passover at the Seder. About 4 million of these handmade shmura matzahs were delivered by the Chabad movement all around the world. So it's different than the square machine machine-bought matzahs that you can find in the supermarket. This is handmade shmura matzah.
Wonderful. And we're going to make what they call charoset this morning. And there are two dishes. The charoset is dipped in what they call the moror, and this symbolizes the bricks and mortar that the Hebrews had to build. So tell me about the ingredients.
Yes, so it's a mixture of wine, apples, and nuts. I even put some pear in here. So what we do is we just put in an apple diced up inside the bowl. My spoon. And you can add some pear in it. And then I put a mixture of nuts. I have walnuts, you can use almonds, whatever nuts. So I pour this into the bowl. And then to make it extra sweet, I have some raisins. And I'm going to pour some raisins in here. And I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and cinnamon. And so it just gives it some good flavor. And we drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder. And we also want to add a little bit of wine into our charoset. So we pour a little bit of wine. I would say before serving it, refrigerate, and before serving, you would add a little bit more.
Now, I mentioned that there are two things that are dipped in each other, the charoset, which you just made, and the moror. What is the symbolism of the dipping of the one and the other? That the Exodus was bittersweet?
So we're doing two things. We're celebrating our freedom, and we're also remembering the slavery. So we have some things as the mar we don't have here with us right now, but the mar is a very bitter, and that's when we're remembering the hardship and the bitter that our ancestors experienced in Egypt. And this is more of like the bittersweet, where it's representing the mortar and the bricks. As you can see, it looks more of like a cement, and this was finely diced in a food processor, which you're welcome to do, or you can just give this a good mix, and it's really delicious, actually.
Wonderful. And when the family gathers, there are several milestones in the Seder, and one is when the youngest child at the table asks the 4 questions, and leading off the 4 questions is, why is this night different from all other nights? And it's really a chance for the family to revisit their history, but to also learn what the roots of Judaism and the escape from slavery were all about.
Exactly. And yeah, and asking questions. That's what we want everybody to do, not just the children. It's all about, Judaism's all about understanding and asking questions and remembering. And one thing I find so amazing is that it's not just every year we're reliving our, the freedom from our ancestors. It's actually giving us, it's actually a season of liberation for us to also get inspired and leave our own personal limitations and our personal, distractions, limitations. We all have got our own.
Puts our lives in context.
Yes, and so here we got that extra energy in this holiday to sort of leave our own limitations and go further and do what we need to do.
Wonderful. Dini, thank you for being here. And for all the members of the Jewish community who begin the celebration tonight, we wish you a happy and healthy Passover, as they say in Yiddish, a Zisen Pesach, Jen.